The ability to speak might not make you intelligent, but we're going to try to prove otherwise. This is the Clashing Sabers podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon, and I am not here with Devore. No, as you can see if you're watching on YouTube, I have a different co-host with me today. He's got the confidence of the Mandalorian and the spirit of Grogu. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Mark.
Hey there. All of that's true too.
It's 100%.
Every word of it.
I don't lie. That's not a
Never.
thing. All of these
Or exaggerate.
These intros are 100% legit. Every single one I've said is completely accurate and not made up.
Always have been.
Exactly. See, this is why I have you on the show. You understand me, Mark. You understand me. Guys, really excited to have Mark on the show tonight because he is one of my stops on my Mandalorian and Grogu road trip that I'm going on, where I'm getting to see it with 5 times with 5 different people already. So I'm really excited about that. So we said, hey, let's jump on the mic and talk about what we're looking forward to with the Mandalorian and Grogu. So we're going to do Mando and Grogu best in butts tonight, where we look at 2 things that we are hoping doesn't happen in the movie, or things that would be a deterrent in the movie for us. And then, of course, 2 things that we want to happen or think would really, really make it. So we're going to get to all of that in just a little while here. But before we get to that, Mark, just Star Wars aside, how you been?
I'm in great. Yeah.
Yeah?
Staying busy. Just kind of ramping up a few things that have been in the works for a while. So yeah, I'm glad to be back in talking about Star Wars. It's been a while.
It's been a hot minute since we had you on, so I'm really excited to do this, because you and I talk all the time, right? And we have chats and things like that. To hop on here and do it with the audience and do it with the people that will engage with this afterwards is always a lot of fun. So if you guys want to reach out to us, of course, check out our social medias. We've got TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff. Or go over to our Facebook group, Clashing Sabers Star Wars, or Star Wars Clashing Sabers. One of those. You type it in, you'll find it. And just engage in the conversation there, because that's a really good time too, where we just kind of keep this stuff going on. But everything's going well in life. What about in Star Wars? What have you been Star Wars?
Well, as you know, we recently wrapped up Maul. You and I flipped out over the finale.
Yeah, talk about it, man. Talk about it.
Yeah, that was definitely top tier lightsaber battle. That's one. Like I said, it's one for the ages. And you and I both recognize that what made it so good was its storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just spectacle. There was real character stuff happening all through it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, overall, I was very pleased with the series. I think it did exactly what it set out to do spectacularly.
Yeah, and to know it's just the beginning too, right? Like, we got this idea of Maul training an apprentice, which we haven't actually gotten yet. All of this stuff. So there's stuff to really look forward to as we continue on with the series. So I'm glad they already gave us the announcement of a season 2. I
was going to ask you something.
Yeah.
Is she based on a Legends character?
So people have equated her to Darth Talon, but different timeline, different part of the timeline, and not connected to Maul originally, as far as I understand. I think people saw the Twi'lek and in a dark colored shot and thought, "Oh my God, it's Talon." I don't know if we're going that direction or not. She'd of course have to get the tattoos and everything like that. Like, there's a lot of work to be done to get her to be Darth Talon. I don't know if they're really interested in doing that, but it's a direction they could go, I guess.
Maybe she's a nod to that character.
Yeah, I think it's more a nod than anything else, for sure. So, for me, like, thinking about her and thinking about just what we're going to get, like, I'm glad they already announced the season 2 before the season ended, because I think it would have taken away a lot if people were going, "Oh my God, how are they going to wrap this up in, 2 episodes in 1 episode?" And we would have come to the finale with so much anxiety that it would have changed how we approached it. Whereas now I feel like we really have a good grasp on what's coming in season 2. We were able to sit back and enjoy and go, this is the next part in the story, not the final part of the story. Especially with the Vader stuff, to not all have all that anxiety with the Vader stuff, I think was really, really good. So,
yeah, I agree. The other thing I wanted to mention I was doing all day today was checking out the soundtrack for The Mandalorian and Grogu.
Dude, it's so good.
It's intense,
It
but
really is.
but in the best kind of ways. It's it's a lot of what I expected, but just bigger.
Mhm.
It's clear that there's a much bigger orchestra involved, but
For
Goranson
sure.
still does all that cool stuff with the synths and different rhythms, and has some really interesting choices musically in a few places. So don't want
Yeah,
to spoil it, but
I haven't listened all the way through. I've listened to some of it. Um, I was listening to some while I was riding this morning when it first came out, and man, that first 8-minute track is a ride in and of itself.
yeah,
And I'm thinking too, as I'm thinking about the movie, I'm thinking about, okay, like this is going to be the opening track, so we're going to get something in the opening scene that is going to be pretty wild, which
yeah,
kind of reminds me of a lot of Mandalorian episodes where it's like we get, this big action piece at the beginning and then it slows down in the story and then big action piece at the end. So it feels very true to the story, true to what this show has been all along. And for me, it really just hit because I've been rewatching The Mandalorian, right? And so
yeah.
I've had the music in
Same.
my mind, I've had the show in my mind, and this is just it seamlessly melded into the rest of that.
Yeah, it's going to have a lot of action in it.
Oh, 100%. And we will
I
talk
mean,
about that for sure.
it's like wall to wall action. It just the music.
Yeah, the music is insane. And I mean, really between this and the mall music, like the mall music is so good too.
Yeah,
Um, that's one thing, with the new direction that Star Wars went when Disney bought it. It was like, okay, what are we gonna get? Especially with things like Rogue One and Solo and movies and stuff. It was like, okay, they kind of stuck with it, played it safe and everything like that. And then the Mandalorian comes out. It's like, oh, okay, so they're gonna do different stuff too. I thought that was really really cool. And so to just keep that going. And then I think Maul even kind of pushed the boundaries of what the animated Star Wars music is, just in the intensity that it had to it. I thought was really, really good. So that's been a lot on my mind lately. But you said you've been rewatching Mandalorian as well?
oh yeah, yeah. I went through
Yeah.
and watched all 3 seasons, and then forced myself to watch the portions that were in the Book of Boba Fett. Did did not watch all of the Book of Boba Fett, but I did watch those episodes, and maybe fast forwarded some through some of it.
The hate for the Book of Boba Fett, man.
I just tell it like it is.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I'm through season 2. I was gonna try to watch those episodes of Book of Boba Fett or the entirety of it because I personally do enjoy the show. But I don't think that's gonna happen to be able to get through season 3, which is more important to me. But man, watching those first 2 seasons, season 1 was like, I always forget how good it is, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Me too.
that there's no episode, like there's no off episodes there. Like I know people give the Gunslinger its crap. It's a good episode. Um, it's not the best episode. It's probably the least of these, but it's still a good, solid story. And then you get to season 2, and there's no letting up. Like season 2 does not have, and I think that's why people kind of, poo on season 3 is like it's not as full tilt as season 2, where season 2 every week we were getting a legacy character in almost. It was like you got Bo-Katan, and then you got Ahsoka, and then you got Boba Fett, and then you got just all these huge characters, and it even felt like bringing Moff Gideon back and finally getting to see him on screen, and now here's Dark Troopers, and here's Luke, and there was no point to breathe.
Yeah, I really like season 2, but all those cameos might make an appearance in my list.
So maybe we have some stuff in common, which is the
Uh,
perfect the perfect segue
there
um,
we go.
to say, let's go ahead and talk about this show. Or excuse me, it's not a show anymore, baby. It's a movie. Let's talk about this new Star Wars movie that we're getting. The first one in 7 years, 6 years, seven
Yeah,
years,
7 years.
7 years, golly. Which after going 30 without one, it's kind of like, oh, this 7 years is just kind of silly. But we got a plethora of Star Wars movies for a time there. We were getting one every year, every other year. It was intense. And so there's been a little bit of withdrawal that's been happening for sure. And so we're going to look at the new Star Wars movie that's coming out. I'm not going to get tired of saying that this week. The Mandalorian and Grogu. Uh, if you haven't listened before, or you're checking us out for the first time, or you haven't listened in a while, here's how our best and butts work. So we'll go through our butts first. These are the things that we think maybe would take away from the movie, diminish it, not work for us in that regard. And then our best is your basic best list, where we look at things we're most looking forward to in the movie. So, Mark, since it's been a minute since you've been on, I'm gonna let you pick. Do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay, go for it. Go with your butt number two.
All right. Well, first I'll be a semantics cop and say that I don't choose these as things that will ruin the movie,
Okay,
because just as you pointed out, we have been in the desert for a while, and this is the first big screen Star Wars, and I am not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. And I'm looking forward to being able to sit down in a theater with friends and family and watch a Star Wars.
for sure.
So it would take quite a lot for it to just be an off the rails disaster for me.
Mm-hmm.
So these are more things that I would say, diminish the experience a bit. So the first one that I chose was, kind of don't think this is going to be the case, but I did notice it in the series, was there are times when the pace, the dialogue, the acting can feel a bit flat in places.
Mm.
Um, and I hate to say it because I really, really like him, and I think it's great that he's running the creative wing of Lucasfilm. But the Filoni episodes for me tend to be in that vein, where they're like a little slower and the dialogue's not quite as crisp. And that's just a stylistic choice I think he makes, or wants from his actors. Um, but he's not directing this, so that's not going to be a concern here. But I did notice that there were times when I felt like the first season did it the best, when Din was sort of the quiet character, where his actions sometimes spoke louder than what he said, and he was a man of few words and a little bit of mystery, and that worked really well in the first season. In fact,
Mm.
the second episode has no dialogue until like 16 minutes in or something,
Yeah, it's
and
crazy.
for that reason, it's one of my favorite episodes. But I noticed in later episodes of the series, sometimes there was a bit of a flatness to the way that characters carried themselves. The two in particular were Ahsoka and Bo-Katan,
Ah,
unfortunately.
you're killing
Um,
me, Smalls.
but I understand, at least, and Ahsoka's. I'm pretty sure Ahsoka's not going to be in this movie. I mean, she's on Peridia right now, so I don't think she's going to be popping in. But um, yeah, I think it was maybe just a stylistic choice, because the genre of the show tends to be gunslinger or mysterious stranger and a lot of underworld elements. So it may have needed, the creators may have felt like they needed the show to sort of take its time.
Mm-hmm.
And there was so much action in it that maybe they wanted to have a contrast between the action scenes and the more quiet scenes. From what I've seen from the movie, I've seen far more than I probably should have seen. As I saw, like, I'm pretty sure you haven't seen it. You didn't watch the extended scene that's on Disney Plus, did you?
No, I haven't. I
Okay.
Yeah, I stayed away from all that stuff. I have stayed away from the TikTok clips and the TV spots and stuff. I'm a trailer and I'm done kind of guy.
That's smart, because that extended scene is very, very good, and I kind of wish I'd seen it in the theater for the first time.
Mhm.
But so those kinds of that scene gives me hope that the movie's going to have a certain kinetic energy, because it's a big screen adaptation.
Yeah.
So that's my hope, at least.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like there's got to be a balance. I think, and I think you're spot on with this. Of you know, you want this movie to push and have a pace. Like some of the best Star Wars, like Phantom Menace, right? When you think about Phantom Menace, for me at least, I think oh, it's kind of a slower movie. It takes its time, and then you watch the Phantom Menace, and you're like, holy crap, this movie moved. You know, um, and I think that's what works in Star Wars, and is that kinetic energy. But you got to have the balance of having character moments and things like that mixed in there. And that I think is really the true nuance of making a movie is knowing how to strike that balance of when do we have those introspective moments. Because like look at Return of the Jedi, for example. Like as much as I love that movie, it can be a little dialogue heavy, in the Luke
Yeah.
and Obi-Wan scene where it's like, now we've got to tell you everything we haven't told you because honestly we just figured it out too. The Luke and Leia scene, all of these things where it's like those moments have to feel earned by everything else, and so we'll have to see how that plays out because while I disagree with you about the acting being flat, save for like Gina Carano's acting is a little wooden at best. I really like Ahsoka and Bo-Katan's portrayal. I thought they were good conversions from what we saw in the animation. But there are those moments where, especially in the Jedi, where there's a lot of talking going on, a lot of slow pacing going on, and especially in a show that does spend so much time in the action aspect of things, that can feel a little off-putting. And I think this movie in particular would be particularly off-putting because we're going to have so much action. Like it's going to be like we've seen very little like slow stuff from this. Like Grogu meditating is like the only like slow paced thing that we've seen. Everything else has been just balls to the walls energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even like when you were mentioning the soundtrack, I've only made it through maybe 4/5 of it.
Okay.
There's maybe 1 or 2 quiet tracks.
Yeah.
In the whole thing. So I do hope that there's going to be opportunity to sort of let the story breathe a little bit.
Yeah, that is. I didn't put it on my list, but that is one of my concerns. Is like, is it just going to be? Is it going to be the Fast and Furious in space? Is it going to be just like nothing but like action, action? We're explaining why we do the action and then action, right? But I want those character moments, and that'll come up a little bit later. But for me, the thing that especially season 2 got me thinking about, but it's even built into season 1 of The Mandalorian. That concerns me about this movie. Concerns is even a strong word because I'm pretty optimistic, but it's, for lack of a better term, is an over reliance on nostalgia base. Right? Like there's bound to be some level of references and callbacks because this show has done it a lot, and Star Wars in the Disney era has done it a lot, and Dave Filoni has done it a lot, and Jon Favreau has done it a lot. So like all the elements are there where they're gonna pull in some like we've already gotten one. We've got the Ardini. We've got what are the Babu Fricks called? The Anzellans. We've got these different little references to other Star Wars projects, but there comes a point where that takes away from the story you're trying to tell, which becomes a problem, right? While I'm not too worried about this because they've done a good job with balancing references and the addition of legacy characters throughout, I don't want a bunch of legacy characters brought in. I think we already know Zeb is going to be in there. We already know Embo's going to be in there. That's good for me, man. Like, I'm good on the rest. Like, I don't need the appearance of a whole bunch of Mandalorians. I don't need, we've got Rod of the Hutt too. Like, there's all these references already that we know are guaranteed to be in there. I don't really want surprises in that. I don't want your Luke
I'm
appearance.
laughing. I'm laughing because like surprise literally appears in my next one. The word surprise, yeah.
Well, but like, because for me, this movie really needs to be about the Mandalorian and Grogu, right? And we're going to get to that later on. Anything that takes away from that is going to be a detriment to this movie for me. And I feel like if we brought in a Han Solo or Luke Skywalker or whatever, um, or Boba Fett or anything like that, right? Any of these major characters that just steal the screen away from whoever they're on screen with because they're such big pieces. I think that becomes a problem, right? Whereas for who they have already, like when you and I see Zeb on the big screen, we're going to freak out, right? It's going to be super exciting. When you and I see Embo on the big screen, it's going to be like super cool. But it's not going to take away from the movie, right? If we're watching the movie and we have Darth Maul's appearance in Solo, where it's like we didn't expect it, and it opens up so many questions, and none of them have to do with the title character,
right?
That becomes a problem. So,
yeah, and it all depends on the context in which characters are featured. I think the reason that we don't mind that Rada's in it, or that Embo or anyone else that we've seen so far is in it, is because we sort of have an idea of how they're going to be featured in the story, and that they're not just there to check a box for nostalgia or whatever. But your point about nostalgia is a good one, and the thing I fear is that it's not so much that I worry that the creators won't know how to manage that, but more that it'll be a mandate from the studio to say, look, this is the first Star Wars in many years. You're going to have to like really make it like real nostalgic so that we can really pull those, nostalgia feels in for this first movie in so many years. So that's what I'm more concerned about, is that there might be external pressure to do that, to Star Wars it up a bit.
Yeah, and I can see that if it was anybody other than Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni making this movie.
That's fair.
For me, Jon Favreau alone has earned the right to tell studios what he's going to do between Iron Man and The Mandalorian. And Dave Filoni is now the president of Lucasfilm. And yes, he's beholden to Disney and everything like that. If they're going to give mandates, I don't feel like that would be the one. You know what I mean? So that's just my opinion on it. But you said surprises in your number one. So tell me what's going on with that
one. It's pretty much what you just said. The appearance of characters that are dropped in. Well, what I wrote was, I don't want to see the Marvel template being introduced here, because we know or suspect that there are plans to bring other characters into theaters. You and I both are in agreement that we would love to see Ahsoka on the big screen in her own film. But that plays into this same, idea of, I really want to see these characters get their own standalone films. I do not want to see this film be an introduction to the next in the Thrawn cinematic universe, because they seem to be setting that up. So if they're moving now to the theaters, and they're maybe going to do less streaming shows, I kind of feel like they're building Thrawn up to be the big baddie of the new generation, this generation of Star Wars. And that's okay, but I also feel like there's probably a lot of pressure to find something like the Skywalker saga. Like we're never going to get the Skywalker saga again unless they completely reboot it, which will happen over my dead body. But not anytime soon, hopefully. But Yeah, I put having these characters sort of drift in kind of the way, and this was my issue with the Book of Boba Fett, was, Mando's scenes were great. I would have preferred those to be in the Mando show.
Mhm.
Um, it felt like a weird detour and it felt like they were juggling with some kind of, oh, you'll have to watch all of these shows in order to get the full story, which feels very Marvel.
Yeah.
And I burned out on Marvel. I don't watch Marvel anymore because I just couldn't keep up, and I just didn't have, you know, the passion or interest to follow some of the newer characters. And I don't want to see that happen to Star Wars.
Mhm.
And this is the part where I'm going to get burned. But I was not a huge fan of Luke being in The Mandalorian,
Okay.
only because I feel like there's the the technology comes with a lot of baggage. So
Yeah.
when you de-age somebody or you use, the deep fake, in rewatching those episodes, I didn't feel like they aged well at all. Even the second
Yeah.
season, or the Book of Boba Fett scenes were better than the second season appearance of Luke. I still feel like I was just distracted the whole time. I could not enjoy like a scene with Luke and Ahsoka together. Like on some level, I enjoyed it, but I was still distracted by the fact that Luke says very little, and what he says is very measured, and he very rarely emotes because you can't really emote that much when you're using that technology. And I just
Yeah.
want, I respect the creative swing that they took there. But I kind of feel like we've kind of moved into an era where people are just very mixed on that sort of
Yeah.
thing. And I feel like
100%.
that would end up stealing focus away from the movie in other areas, if they went that route. Would not want to see Luke, Leia, and Han make an appearance as a cameo.
Yeah. No.
That would be a huge miss for me. Yeah, so I was basically echoing a lot of what you were saying about bringing in like legacy characters in that respect.
Yeah. I think, there's a time and place to try those things. And I think that they used that time and place. I think if you're gonna have a Jedi at the end of season 2 of Mandalorian, it makes the most sense for it to be Luke, and then you have Luke, so you've got to show him training Grogu, right? So for me, like I just rewatching season 2, and I just see that deep fake, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty rough. Um, Especially when you look at things that we have, like Tarkin's appearance in Rogue One and things of that nature, that are just so much better. It makes it hard. And to the throne aspect of it all, I really think they're keeping that to the TV. I think that's going to be a Ahsoka season 2 thing. I think they tried the interconnected Mandoverse thing, and it didn't go as well as they planned past season 2 of Mando. Book of Boba Fett didn't get as great of a reaction, so Ahsoka leaned into it less, and then the streaming thing became an issue. So they're going back to the movies, which you got to reintroduce these characters to brand new people, and all of these things. So there's been so many strings tied to it all that I feel like they've kind of moved away from that. So I don't have too big of a concern about like them doing the interconnected universe thing with this movie. Now, this is Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. Will there be a scene at the end that makes you go, ooh, 100%, 100% they're doing that scene. I don't think it's going to be a big enough scene where we go, oh, if that doesn't come to fruition, like this is not good. Um, so I kind of am planning on that happening, but I'm not too concerned about um, how it all comes together. Like I think it's going to be, I think it's going to work itself out. So um, for me, the biggest concern is too many new characters. Actually, uh,
Okay.
one of the advantages I think you have with making the show before the movie is we have this set of familiar characters, so we don't need a ton of new ones to make this movie work, right? Um, having characters we already know is going to make it feel more like a unified universe than having all of these new characters that we have to introduce in the midst of all of this action and everything else that we have that's going to be going on, right? We've got Sigourney Weaver's character, which is she's going to play a huge part in things, right? But we have such a diverse set of characters for the Mandalorian already that I don't think we need to be introducing all these new characters when we have people already in place. It's kind of like what they do with Legends, where it's like, or what they did with Saw Gerrera is even a better example, where it's like, oh, we need this like rebellious leader who goes against the grain and everything for Rogue One. It's like, oh, but we already have that. His name's Saw Gerrera. Let's just use him, right? Or the way that they bring in Legends characters, where it's like, oh, we need a big bad who would have survived the Empire. It's like, oh, well, we actually already have that. His name's Thrawn. And so, with the advantage of having the show, right? Like, I don't want a whole bunch of Bo-Katan and Ahsoka, all of these characters that steal the screen, but these side characters that we've gotten in The Mandalorian, bring them back in. Don't make this feel like it's a whole brand new thing for those of us who have been around for the last decade of this show. And yet, at the same time, we want some new characters to make this feel like the story is advancing forward. So just as with the nostalgia thing, it's a balance of it all, and I think they're going to do that. I think that they're kind of signaling that with the Zeb and Embo and stuff, where they're not going to be over reliant on creating all these new characters. But that is the one concern I have, is them getting too stuck in the idea of, we've got to introduce this to new people, so we're going to introduce a whole bunch of new people. I think that'll take away from the story.
Yeah, I agree. I will ask you this, because it's started on television, is moving to the theater. Don't you still think that there will be a lot of expositional type stuff to reintroduce even existing characters, because they have to assume that there will be people coming to this that maybe are Star Wars fans. Well, I can't imagine. I was about to say Star Wars fans who haven't seen The Mandalorian. Like that doesn't exist, Mark. Well, that's fairy tale.
And I don't think, here's the thing. I hear what you're saying about, there's going to be new audiences. I don't think it's going to be that big of an audience.
Yeah, well, there's that.
Like, I don't think we're bringing in 70% new people, 80% new people. I think we're looking at like 20% new people, 30% new people, right? And what that does for the box office and stuff like that can be argued and everything like that, right? This movie is for the people who have watched 3 seasons of the show, or at least watched season 1, and maybe we bring in, like Pelimato and stuff like that, I don't think we have to go crazy with the callback characters again, like the nostalgia thing. Like, I don't think we need to bring in a ton of, characters we've seen throughout the show, but I don't want them to be like, oh, well, we need a rebel pilot, so we're going to bring in somebody else instead of bringing in, what's his name that we have already? Paul Young Sing, or I forget what his name is. I'm blanking on it. But the one that was supposed to start Rangers of the New Republic, and then everything happened.
Yeah.
So there's just not a need for it if we already have them. That's my thing. I don't want to see any of these new characters be like, well, we could have just had this guy. We're this guy. You just be consistent and make it feel like it's part of the universe.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes a new character is born out of necessity. Maybe they couldn't get the original actor to come back to reprise their role as a particular character, so they write a new character. That thing happens. But I definitely hear your point. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So with that in mind, it's time to move on to the good stuff, the stuff that we are looking forward to in The Mandalorian and Grogu. So we're going to go through 2 things. And Mark, I'll let you go with your number 2.
Okay, my number 2. I want to have fun.
Yes, let's go.
I just want to have fun, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's I absolutely love Andor. Andor is my favorite Star Wars thing that they've ever made. I love that show, but Star Wars needs to have a balance. There needs to be a mix of darker and lighter and fun and serious. And I just feel like we're way overdue for, a lighter adventure. And so, in some ways, when they announced that this was going to be the first movie, I kind of shrugged and went, "Oh, okay, I get it. I mean, it's a popular character, and Grogu is massively commercially viable, is everywhere, so I can definitely see why they would want to do that.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'd already seen most of what I needed to see in the series. I just thought, well, it'd be fun to see another installment on the big screen. But as it's gotten closer, I've just realized, and a lot of it has to do with we live in very turbulent times, and I think we need something lighter and not to be totally escapist, but just to provide, like I said, that balance of being able to sit in a theater for 2 hours, be completely taken away on an adventure. I'm sure the movie's going to have a lot of humor in it, so we definitely need to laugh some. But yeah, I just really want to have fun in Star Wars again.
Yeah.
In a theater.
I feel you. And that actually works perfectly because that's my number 2 also.
Oh.
A little twist on it. Mine is fun combined with mythos and world building. So, because I'm still me. I'm still me.
You and I have the same brain, man. I just gotta say.
We do. Well, look, this movie is 100% going to be about fun, raucous adventure with Mando and Grogu, right? It's going to have, so you've already seen that in a trailer. It's going to have a ton of action, right? I think this is going to be the most action-packed Star Wars movie we've ever seen. I think it'll, before that you have like The Force Awakens or Rise of Skywalker, right? I think they're going to pale in comparison to that. I think this whole movie is going to be the third act of Rogue One in terms of action and intensity, right? But the mythos and the lore is where Star Wars is at its best, and those are my favorite aspects of it. So if this movie is going to reach the highs that it can, it's going to need that thing. And I want them to continue building the world of the Mandalorian, making it feel like this fits seamlessly in with the world that we already have, while also expanding the galaxy to feel bigger than it's ever felt before, right? And that's a hard task, right? But it's what makes Star Wars go. It's what makes it more than just a movie that existed, like if you look at something like the Terminator movies, for example, right? Like they have a ton of Terminator movies and things like that, and people love them. But how many Terminator podcasts are you sitting and watching and listening to, right? Like, there's such a commitment to Star Wars because it has all of those things. It contains multitudes, right? So yeah, bottom line for me is I want to walk out having just had a great time, right? But I want to have built the lore and the mythos of the world a little bit more. I want to understand more what it means to be a Mandalorian, right? And what does it mean to be a Mandalorian as the Mandalorian after the Mandalorians have reunited and all the sects are back? And what does it mean to be a Mandalorian and a Jedi? How does Din continue to understand the Force? And the one that really compels me is how do they continue to explore that idea of Din not being around all the time when Grogu grows older and the legacy that they leave. But I'll save that for a little bit later. But I just really want to walk out. I want to walk out the first time knowing that the next 4 times I have scheduled are not going to be a slog,
Yeah, same.
And regardless of anything else, like the fun aspect of it is going to be the biggest impact in that regard, right? Do I look forward to every next scene? And that's a high bar, right? But I think if anybody can do it, this show, this movie, and this cast and crew that they have.
Yeah, and if it's I suspect it's going to be structured like an amusement park ride.
Mm,
And when movies feel that way and they're fun, then when you see it multiple times, especially with an audience, if it's a crowd pleaser especially,
mhm,
then you get to relive those moments because you know the hill's
mhm.
coming and you know the drop's coming and you know that people are going to react to this scene and are people going to laugh at this scene. So when a movie's really firing on all of those cylinders, rewatching it does feel like going on another ride that you've been on before.
Yeah.
At least for me.
Well, that's what it was like The Last Jedi, for example. Nothing will ever top the experience I had seeing The Last Jedi in theaters for the first time, right? Because you're going on that amusement park ride for the first time. There's so many ups and downs in that movie, right? Um, but then to go and see it other times in the theater and to know the Holden maneuver's coming, right? And there's people who haven't seen it before,
Yeah.
to know the breaking of the Skywalker lightsaber, to know that Leia getting thrown out into space is coming, right? And then she's about to pull herself back, and how are people going to react to that? All of that stuff really gets you excited, and I think that this is going to have that, right? Um, and, and even mixed in there is the humor, you know. Uh, there's the you know the scene in Force Awakens where they're running, the jump will do, right? That got people every single time. So just seeing all of that stuff for the first time and then getting to see it through other people's experiences at times after that is just going to be something that is really, really cool, and I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, we haven't talked a whole lot about Grogu, but I feel like this is a good place to throw that in because you mentioned humor, and one of my favorite scenes from the Mandalorian series is that scene where Din puts Grogu in that little alcove to fix the wires, and he's talking him
Oh,
through.
yeah.
That is hands down one of the funniest scenes in Star Wars, and because they're leaning into the thing, it's a baby. He put a baby in to fix the broken wires. I want to see more of that, because we tend to. I'm in this weird place with Grogu's. Like he's been a baby for so long, and he'll be a
Mhm,
baby for so much longer. I'm like,
mhm.
do we really give a baby a lightsaber? I mean, I know that Luke wanted to do
Yeah,
that, but I was like,
yeah.
really? But yeah, just little reminders that he's still a baby, and I feel like when they lean into that for the humor aspect, they do a good job. Some people had a problem with him like eating the little frog babies, but I just thought it was funny. I want to see more of that.
No, it's good stuff. It's meant to be humorous, right? It's meant to be at that point in the story, like he's gaining some freedom and autonomy and his experience, and he's exploring and pushing boundaries, right? And that's part of the growing up process is pushing those boundaries. And to me, that's what he does in season two. Is sorry, I thought I just yeah no sorry, I thought I just heard something in my apartment, and that was weird. Um,
Well, the neighbor's kid is playing his bass again, so I don't know if you're hearing
oh
that.
no, that might have been it. Um, no, I think the humor that he brings comes from that growing up experience and the development of being a kid who is pushing boundaries, and then we see him kind of step into um, that independence that he gets from his experience within in season three. So I think we're going to get a lot of that in the show, or excuse me, in the movie. I gotta get used to calling this thing a movie.
Yeah,
And so the more that we get of that, I think the better off that we are. Which kind of seamlessly leads into my number one. So I'm going to go ahead and just go with my number one and let you close out, if
sure.
that's cool with you.
Yeah,
Because my number one that I'm most looking forward to is the character development for the Mandalorian and Grogu. Uh, this was the crux of season one and two of the show, which were, in my opinion, about as perfect of Star Wars as we've ever had. Um, they were absolutely fantastic, and I think as much as I liked season three, I think it got a little lost in season 3 when they tried to tell a larger story about the Mandalorians, right? And I think that this is going to bring us back home to this this story of these two characters and their relationship with each other, right? And I think any good story needs character development, but there's this temptation with characters that people love to not take the risk of taking them in new directions, I guess is the best way to say it. And from what the trailers have shown, it does seem like we're going to get this because Din is thinking about himself in relation to Grogu and all of that stuff, right? But trailers can be deceiving at times, right? And so I'm hoping that that's not just a snippet of the story and that really is the theme of the story because um, that is, I think, really where the story is at and where the themes are going to be found is in that character development of these two and their relationship with each other. And kind of like I mentioned, one of the best parts of season 3 is the development of Grogu as a character instead of just as a prop, right? And I think the trailers have shown us that this is going to be the case for the movie. So I feel really positive about that, but really looking forward to just seeing how these two continue to develop together.
Yeah, that's a really good one, especially since it brings us back to the reason that this movie exists, which is those two characters.
Mm-hmm.
And also getting back to the theme in Star Wars of found family.
Yeah.
That's incredibly important. And yeah, I mean, you know, we've lived with the Mandalorian and Grogu for so long now. It's easy to forget that we had no idea that this is going to be the dynamic of the show when it first aired. Like
Yeah.
that reveal of the baby in that episode, it was like we thought we knew what we were getting with the Mandalorian show, and it completely surprised us in a lot of ways. So
Yeah.
I agree. And I also I know that they always have to come up with clever ways to remove his helmet, but this is a movie, so we know we're going to get a lot of Pedro without the
Yeah.
helmet. I mean, that's probably going to be like a major plot point is that he loses his helmet at some point so that he can be,
Well,
you
we
know,
know he loses his helmet. We've seen it in the trailers, right?
right.
So how does he deal with that, right? Like they can't just brush that aside as if it wasn't the entire reason for season 3 of the show.
Right, but that allows them to really show the connection between Din and Grogu, because that scene where he's saying goodbye to him in season 2, where he pulls the helmet off, that just left everybody in tears, you know, because you spent so much time, you know, and Grogu reaching up to touch his face. It's like even now I get a little emotional talking about it. It's moments like that should remind us why this movie should have been made. Was it goes
Yeah.
back to that relationship. So I agree.
Yeah, and I think the season 3 that we got was important, right? At some point we had to tell the story of the Mandalorians if we're going to bring in characters like Bo-Katan and Boba Fett and stuff like that, right? Um, But even if this was season 4 of The Mandalorian, I would want them to get back to that aspect of it. And this feels like, you know, even though we are bringing in characters like Zeb and Emba and Red Other Hood and stuff like that, and even though we're working for the New Republic and things like that, the trimmings will all be there of tying this to the rest of the galaxy. But I think the crux of this is really going to be just those two going on an adventure together. That's something I'm excited about. So, what about you? What's your number one thing you're most looking forward to with The Mandalorian and Grogu?
Well, this is a little bit of callback to what you said earlier, and which is why I said you and I have the same brain. But my number one is world building.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to see more of that great world building. You know, one of the things that makes the prequels so endearing to me, you know, in spite of their flaws, is that there's so much rich world building and storytelling that goes on in just the artistic design of it. Like it's so dense visually, and there's, you know, every single cranny and corner has some detail in it that people have been obsessing about for, you know, decades. And I, you know, the TV series, the Mandalorian TV series, looked really good to be a TV series. There were times
Mhm.
when maybe it leaned a little too much on the volume. That's what it's called,
Yeah.
right? Volume.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to be a problem here.
No.
I look forward to location shooting, where you can tell that they're actually on in a location. Um, and just really blink and you'll miss it stuff that when you go back
Mhm.
and rewatch it many times, you see like a particular character in the background. And I'm not even talking about like member berries or like little Easter eggs so much. Those are fun too, but you know, uh, you talked about expanding the lore, and I wrote in this section that you know, here's an opportunity. That Dave Filoni's got a lot more to say about the Force.
Oh, yeah.
So even though this is not going to be a Jedi centric story, I wouldn't mind at all if there was a bit more of the Force lore tossed in, just a little reference here, or maybe a ruin or something.
Mhm.
Just anything that sort of reminds us that we're in a dense, living, vibrant universe, which Star Wars has always been really good at doing. But that's as much of a character to me as any of the other central characters. Is
Mhm.
location can often be its own character, and for me, Star Wars, the character is the universe itself, the galaxy.
That's a really good point. I've never thought about the world as a character, but you're so spot on. And that's part of what makes Star Wars flow is having all of those rich environments, right? And that's been one of the major complaints of the Disney era is like so many sand planets and everything feels earthy and stuff like that, right? And I think this show has, or this movie, I'm going to get it right one of these days. Um, this movie has an opportunity to push the boundaries in new directions because it's not being using the volume and stuff, right? It was shot fully in LA. Like they've got sound stages, they can use CGI. Like we're getting just all these opportunities to build this world out, visually. Like this movie just looks really good. I think that that's not a concern I have as far as the look of it goes, but I do want to see um, expansion of the galaxy and the world around it and the lore, like I talked about, but also just those things that we can go back and we can go, oh man, did you see that guy in the background? Or like Rogue One now, just like looking for Chopper in the background is such a fun experience. Or like, oh man, I heard, General Syndulla over the intercom. Like, just little things like that, I think will really add to the story quite a bit. And I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to this movie, man. When this movie was announced a few years ago, I was like everybody else. I was kind of like, okay, cool. I was even though I don't like the circle zoom out sitcom look of the very last shot of season 3 of The Mandalorian, I was kind of like, they perfectly closed that chapter of the book. So I was okay if they didn't continue The Mandalorian, right? And at the same time, I'm totally okay that they're continuing The Mandalorian in a movie, and not continuing season 4. So from there, where I was kind of meh, to where I am now, where I don't know if I could possibly be more excited for this movie, uh, is a really good place to be.
Agree, and
So
I'm right there with you.
yeah, so looking forward to seeing it this Thursday. Looking forward to seeing it a few times throughout the next few weeks, and of course with you, Mark. But in the meantime, if people want to keep up with you, see what you're working on outside of Mando and Grogu stuff, where can they find you and where can they connect?
Well, I had been taking a break from social media, but I've gotten back into Instagram a little bit. So if folks want to follow me there, DJ M Marquis at Instagram. But I'm also working on. I've been sort of in the process of planning a novel, my first novel that I really want to write and publish. I've gotten more into the structure of that, so I'm getting deeper into that process. And also, as I'm sure that listeners are familiar with, the project you're working on, the book you are
Mm,
working on, I
yeah,
am doing illustration for it.
yeah. Super excited for you guys to see these illustrations too. They're insane.
Yeah, that's been a lot of fun, especially to get back into illustration and to be able to do it with Star Wars has been a lot of fun. And so I think people are going to enjoy it.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited about it. Every time you send me a new one, it reignites my excitement for what you're doing and also for the book and everything like that. So super excited for people to see that. And of course, he's talking about the Jedi Book too, the book that I'm working on, where we look at different elements of Star Wars lore and how we can apply those lessons to our lives to be more fulfilled, more contributing members to our society, and better to ourselves at the same time. So that'll be coming out this holiday season. So make sure you stay tuned for that, because that is hard at work at that. And if you want to keep up with everything else that Clashing Sabers is doing, of course, we are across social media, Clashing Sabers. And if you want to support us in a more important way, you can support our nonprofit, Put Star Wars Books in the Classrooms across the country. We just got a recent nomination for a local, or not a local library, but a library that serves people in need. And so we're donating there. Anywhere you think we can contribute by putting Star Wars books. And these are not small boxes. These are very big boxes that we pack to the brim with Star Wars books. We're not sending them 10. We're sending them, 90, 100 books for them to be able to have in their classroom libraries, in their school libraries, in their local libraries. So if you want to support that mission, go over to patreon.com/clashing sabers to sign up to help us raise funds, or go over to clashingsabers.net/nominated teacher, and you can nominate a teacher for us to contribute books to. And if you have any questions there, of course, you can always contact me on social media and Instagram at Clashing Sabers, or go the old school way, clashingsabers@gmail.com. So all of that is in the show notes. Everything you need is there, so it's just a click away. Mark, before we close out, I forgot the one thing that we really need in the Mandalorian Grogu. Like, no, we don't want nostalgia. Okay. I know we don't want too many callbacks, but if we don't have that shade, it's going to be a problem. Hey, you practiced, didn't you?
It's not my first rodeo, man.
Okay.